Thank you very much, John. I really appreciate that. And I know if you watch the Act 250 updates that are pending in January, it will scare the living hell out of you. Your personal property rights are at stake. Don't be fooled that they are pushing this agenda because they want to push it. They're not pushing it because it's going to change the climate, it's going to change Vermont. They're pushing it because it's part of their agenda to push the climate change garbage on top. Now, our second speaker, an independent farmer and businesswoman who knows how hard it is to run a business in Vermont. It is my extreme pleasure to introduce Kate Bowen.
Hopefully it won't snow before the end of the afternoon, but I'm Kate Bowen and I'm from southern Vermont, from a small town called Putney off of 91, so you probably driven through it if you've never been there. But today I'm here to share my thoughts on the farmer's plight in Vermont. Our farms and forestry industries are on life support, and without conservative dominance in state government, we have a grim future. For me, farming is a radical political act. It's something I do every day to participate in a one-woman rebellion against big government. I raise thousands of pounds of nutrient-dense food for my community. It's an act against the globalist chains of bondage through the fact that I can take seeds, turn them into produce and grains, and then turn that into bacon. It's an alchemy that since the beginning of time has meant survival, money, and power. When only the rich and powerful control our food and land, we have lost our independence. Farmers in Vermont know the left is mandating regulation under the guise of environmentalism, social justice, and economic fairness. What these policies are really doing is normalizing the concepts of collectivism that would make Stalin proud. Feel-good sounding policy that's a sentimental throwback to a return of the feudalism that our ancestors left behind when they came to America. Sun Tzu knew that to dominate an opponent, you control the enemy's food supply and create a situation where you can subdue them without resistance. As we gather here today, we must recognize that true patriots should defend food freedom just as fiercely as they do the Second Amendment. The fight, thank you. Food is our fuel. The fight for food freedom is the fight against tyrannical elites dictating how we use our land. Through government programs like Act 250 and overreaching zoning laws, livestock and poultry slaughtering limits, and environmental policies created in windowless boardrooms in Montpelier, and not by true conservationists that know the land. Food freedom is fair access to your neighbor's fresh milk, a plate of grilled chicken wings slaughtered without the glare of a USDA inspector. They didn't like that. The USDA is always listening. Or a cord of wood cut on your farm without the Putney Development Review Board's approval. Food freedom is believing that you, the consumer, can take accountability for what you put in your mouth and the mouths of your children. Perhaps kids shouldn't be eating commodity chicken nuggets paid for on the taxpayer's dime in their school cafeteria when we have an obesity epidemic in our nation. Consumers can ask, why is it that with all these USDA food pyramids, corn subsidies, and supplemental food programs, our kids have reduced life expectancies and more chronic health conditions than ever? Could it be that the soft-handed elites wanting to manage the commoners have been giving us poor advice? Perhaps we should stop looking to swamp creatures for one of the most important catalysts in our liberty, our food. Leftists in Hollywood have created an image of farming They've instructed the sheeple that the American farmer is backwards, uneducated, small-minded, overalls-wearing hayseed. In today's PC culture, this world has manufactured an image even worse. It paints urban versus country as good versus evil. We're told farmers are steeped in misogyny, xenophobia, closed-minded Christian values, and we are in denial about all of this because we are unable to recognize our privilege. In some parts of the country, we're labeled as rednecks, hillbillies, hicks, or in Vermont, woodchucks. Our own Attorney General and Governor believe us to be irredeemably racist. In reality, though, these elites manipulate our history to fit their own agenda. They whitewash substantial parts of our culture. They leave out pieces of our history. Instead of proudly stating the fact that our Constitution banned slavery in the 1700s, a pioneering, evolved move for a group of simple country folks. The mainstream image of us rural Americans is designed to diminish our worth. It's to break down our confidence and our inner purpose. It's to limit our influence and condition us to keep our mouths shut. How many blue-collar Vermonters do you know that are self-employed and scared to post something right-leaning on Facebook? Or they're scared to say they're Christian at work in fear they might offend someone or get fired? There are people among us today who don't want it getting out that they watch One America or Fox News or that they go to church because they're self-employed and they might lose customers. They might be blacklisted in their tolerant Vermont communities for holding conservative views. What progressive Vermont has somehow missed as they've lapped up this caricature of the Vermont farmer and culturally appropriated our plaid and shiplap is that Vermonters are not a complacent people. We are not idiotic and going to stand for the manipulation of our values much longer. We are intellectual agrarians who see how backwards Montpelier has become. Thank you. Some of us have gone so far to take our children out of our schools, and some of us are becoming more involved in our town government. Vermont farmers are frustrated. We see raw sewage from municipalities flowing into the rivers that we fish, and yet the Vermont farmer is to blame. We see Bernie's lakefront lawn service pouring phosphorus-laden fertilizers on overdeveloped lake shores, and yet the Vermont farmer is to blame. We have proud farmers who are selling off their herds, while hipster farmers get tax credit, tax dollar funded grants with zero accountability, so they can dabble in ag without tapping into their daddy's trust funds. We have farmers that can't pay taxes and must sell off the rights to their land to trusts, a modern-day sharecropping system that no doubtedly leaves Thomas Jefferson rolling over in his grave. I'm tired of suit and tie, government-wearing officials who celebrate modernization at the expense of common sense. They coerce farmers into using newfangled technology. Remember how these great ideas were marketed to us? Tile drainage, manure lagoons, silos, and synthetic fertilizers. Government leaves farmers hanging out to dry when decades later these things fail. Farmers are left with a bill and left to be crucified and slandered by rabid environmentalists. What we as Vermonters need to reestablish is our intrinsic value. We've been told for so long to resist conflict, be polite, and turn the other cheek that we're allowing ourselves to be destroyed. Like the Wampanoag, who may have later regretted teaching Puritan colonists how to tame coastal soils, to grow corn, squash, and beans, if our humble ancestors could have anticipated the predatory behavior that would condemn its offspring, perhaps the wealthy that bought up our lands over the past 5 decades might not have been so welcome. A people without a cultural identity are easily erased, manipulated, and used as a tool. Our identity is the working landscape. It's the land that our grandparents grew gardens in. It's the woods that our great-grandfathers hunted in. It's the place that our great-great-grandparents' mortal bodies have returned to the earth in. Vermont needs a conservative revolution which will be just as hard won as it was for Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Movement. This cultural war has been quietly raging for enough generations now that we don't even remember our roots. Our schools have new curriculums. Our churches have become unrecognizable. Our music has been lost. Even the way our children speak has been modernized. What politicians don't understand is that the farmer and the logger keep score. What might be a small tax or a fee seen as an inconvenience to those in authority forget that it is us who must come up with it by apprehensively opening our wallets. Vermonters keep paring down comforts and necessities in order to have those in power the ability to pat themselves on the back over cocktails in Montpelier. While proud Vermonters sit in poverty, legislators who are supposed to represent them pretend they can't hear their voice. It's time for our state's purse strings to be in capable, conservative hands. It's time for us to reclaim where we came from. It's time for us to stop apologizing for loving our flag, for wanting to pass down traditional skills like trapping. We need to stop apologizing for the sounds of our four-wheelers and for sighting in our deer rifles. We even need to stop apologizing for the farts of our cows. If we recognize that working and growing a family on a farm is a worthy endeavor, if we start to recognize that our founding fathers staunchly believed that freedom is better understood after serving a deployment, after stacking a cord of wood, or helping a neighbor sugar late into the night, then we'll start to understand that farming matters. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Throw it to John.
Well done, Kate.
I'm happy to stand up here and talk some more.
I got a question,
Any
Kate.
questions?
Okay. Jump.
Are you going to run for office?
I'm going to do whatever God and Vermonter want me to do. I'm here to serve, so it's whatever people need. If it's parking cars, if it's running for office, I'm not apologizing for who I am and what I believe anymore. Jack?
Speaking on behalf of myself and everyone else here, can you please, thank you.
Can you please run for governor of the state? Please.
I think you got that covered, but I was thinking of Queen of Vermont. I figure I could get more done that way more efficiently, but I'm not sure if we're ready for that kind of rebellion. But no, we've got some really good, capable folks who I'm excited that'll be speaking later, and I think they'll get you excited. What about farming? Anyone have any farming questions? Just kidding, just kidding. So I didn't really talk very much about our farm, but my husband and I run a small farm where we sell meat, eggs, hay, maple sap, and forest products. And it's by the grace of God that the forest products piece, I never thought that would have brought me here, but that's what really catapulted me into becoming more active and standing up, because that's when I started seeing how policies were not working for those in our forest products industry. And you know, the silent workers like log truck drivers and guys in the woods, those are folks that we rely on, that we don't give credit to, and they're too busy to go up to Montpelier, and they can't take a day off of work because they're strapped, you know, too thin at this point. And so it's important that we represent them, and that's when I started to have my first taste of shaping policy, and actually had a successful bill, S-101, which was the right to practice forestry, was finally pushed through a couple years back, and that was pretty exciting. So we still need to work on our right to farm policy. Like a lot of things in Vermont that you would assume would be really progressive, are not. And we have a long ways to go to be able to protect farmers. But as we have a lot more urban encroachment, it becomes more and more difficult to farm. And when you are going against neighbors who have an unlimited pot of money and time to work against you, and you're just trying to milk cows, it's a David and Goliath situation. And so we've got to stand up for that.
And she was nice and simple. She'd get to the point.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, it's not something that you've heard talking about. But, I heard on the radio yesterday that back in 1950s, Bernie Sanders shouted communism in New York City. Yeah, I heard that on the Rush Limbaugh show. What? I don't know. I think Bernie's out of his mind.
I agree.
Can you talk to the number of farms in Vermont and how many we're losing per year?
Sure. So the numbers are really, as often as numbers do not really represent all the farms because it's just what the USDA has reported, and that's what the Agency of Ag uses. But what we've seen in our communities is rapid farm loss. And another hard part of that is that a lot of the really sort of small, intergenerational, maybe large-sized homesteads are not going to be represented in those numbers. So you will see that the dairy farm, the large farms, is shrinking. And I mean, it's only a matter of time until we just have, 20 giant dairies, and that's all we have representing what Vermont Ag is. And I think that it's important to realize how integral farming is to our society. I think farmers are the people that, because they've been self-employed and they're able to set their own hours, they're able to volunteer at their kids' school. And so the impact of a dairy farm closing in a society isn't just losing a food product, it's losing, the parents who are around in the community, who are around at their church. It's the neighbor with a tractor who's able to pull out, their neighbor from New York City from a ditch. So I think that the way farms are also incorporated into our numbers is really tricky because I don't think that the numbers that the state is showing is representing the actual loss. It's unfortunate.
I'm a Republican committee chairman here locally. I don't need that. I don't think I need it. And I would second what this gentleman said. I hope you consider running as a representative. I really do. You have everything a rep and somebody would vote for. You're young. You're female, you're attractive. I don't mean it, and you're very well spoken, and you're not about conservative. And I would just second the thing that if you ran for office, I don't know who represents you now in Putney. I know Putney's very liberal. I've worked down there.
We have Mike Murwicki and Nadir Hashim as representatives. Jeanette White as senator.
I think if you ran, the result would be great.
Thank you.
Would you say most of the government regulations that are affecting farms, small farms particularly, are coming from the state or are they coming from the feds?
That's a really good question. Vermont farmers have to dance between those federal regulations that are often, they don't fit Vermont-sized farms. A lot of those USDA regulations are really designed for big California dairies or giant Midwest soybean farms. So Vermont has a unique situation in having to balance both, and then also dealing with the fact that bills that are trying to be pushed for ag in Vermont are being pushed by the rabid left. They're being pushed by environmentalists, and similar to what we see with the, Save Our Wildlife folks. They're people that don't understand the actual how food is produced and that kind of thing. So I would say it's a chew, and I think that what we're seeing, like a lot of legislation, is that it's coming. These ideas that we never would have seen 20 years ago are being pushed, and they're taken seriously by our liberal legislature. And that's a huge problem, because if the conservative-minded farmer and loggers don't stand up now, these people are completely out of touch with reality, and it's becoming really difficult to farm in any manner with these laws.
Well, and that's what is sort of confusing. One of the things that I find confusing about the mindset is like, okay, so cows are bad, we're going to get rid of them. You want everybody to move to a plant-based diet, as an example. Okay, cute, fine. Do you then realize how much more food has to be grown, and how much more land has to be cleared, and then all of the work that goes into that? Like, how are we going to eat if we don't have farms? I can't. Do they ever answer that question?
Well, just recently I came out of Swedish leftists decided that we're going to do cannibalism. So that was a suggestion from the left, which is great. Yeah, and I think just like what we saw with the forest fires out in the West, unfortunately when you have people who are educated beyond their intelligence, they don't understand that our foliage is because of loggers and sustainable forestry practices. What we see, what we think of as Vermont is because of the doers who are actually doing this stuff that is, if you don't understand it at all and you're not open-minded, I can understand how me raising veal might seem abrasive. But when you learn that in order to get milk, you have to have a dairy cow give birth, and you're going to sometimes get bull calves, and it's better to raise the bull calf up than waste it. If you can take 5 minutes and explain your story and why you do stuff, that's great. But you have to be willing to have a leftist who has open ears and is willing to, have 2 ears and 1 mouth and open their ears for a second and listen. And that doesn't always happen. And I would say that a lot of young farmers, though, now are using social media, and we're trying to be advocates and explain Vermont agriculture and forestry online, and we're getting a really good response to that. But it's a mountain, it's an uphill battle to explain these very things that were common sense not that many years ago. But yeah, I think the science too that leftists are using that's saying that we all need to go vegan is inaccurate. And so if they're only willing to look at certain studies with bad science, but regenerative agriculture is an amazing thing. I'm sequestering carbon. The science is there. You can watch TED Talks with Alan Savory. You can see how I'm regenerating soil using rotational grazing practices. And all you have to do is take a pasture walk on my farm to see that. You can see it with your own 2 eyes. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate. Oh, wow, that's all I can say. She's got some good eggs, doesn't she? Now, if she decides not to run, I'm going to force her to run, so don't worry about that. Welcome to all the new faces who've just joined us at Liberty Fest. Don't forget, the lunch counter is open at Otter Creek Fun Center. He's got some amazing food. Take it from somebody who eats here on a regular basis. He's only 4 miles down the road.
We're just gonna get high. Yeah.
As I look across the sea of faces here, I see freedom-loving, patriotic
I
Vermonters.
didn't hear much of what you said, but
What I don't see here is what our governor and attorney general calls racist or white supremacists. I also do not see any Nazis. That Antifa claims are in Vermont. I have yet to come across any of these people in my daily travels. And I crisscross this state every week. What I do see here are hardworking Vermonters who are sick and tired of being taken advantage of by our state government. Welcome to the new Vermont, where during the past 30 years, we have lost most of our Vermont values. We have lost the affordable Vermont we all stayed here for. We have lost a lot of our personal freedoms and rights, thanks to the Democratic progressive agenda. And it's sad to realize that the people of Vermont no longer have a voice in government. And now, 2020 is the time to change that. If you have not registered to vote, so you can be heard, it's time to do just that. There are 4 booths here under this tent where you can sign up to become a registered voter. 40,000 Vermonters did not vote in 2018. And look what we have in Montpelier right now. By not voting, it's going to cost you your freedom, your liberty. Remember, an informed voter is a smart voter. And I will take a few minutes to have a musical interlude before I introduce the next speaker. Thank you. I hate to interrupt your mingling and your good times here. I'd like to introduce our next speaker on the podium. Current president of the Federation of Sportsman Clubs and pro-Second Amendment supporter, Mr. Chris Bradley. How are you doing today? Greetings to all of you who are here and understand what freedom, unity, and liberty means. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Chris Bradley. I'm proud and honored to be the duly elected president of the Vermont Federation of Sportsmen's Clubs.
Bring the mic closer.
The secretary and treasurer of the Vermont State Rifle and Pistol Association, as well as being a registered lobbyist who goes to the state and does battle with the legislators on your behalf. In the interest of full disclosure, I need you all to know that I cannot call myself a Vermonter, as I've only lived here since 1967. I was actually born in Pennsylvania, and if you are not already aware, I wish you to know that the Vermont Constitution was heavily based on the Pennsylvania Constitution, so perhaps you might cut me some slack for being a flatlander. From my direct experiences in working as lobbyists, I wish I could tell you that our legislatures make all of their decisions based on sound public policy that is in compliance with Vermont and federal constitutions. We all know, however, that that is simply not true. The priority of many in the ruling party is allegiance first to their party, second to committees that they serve on, and then as a distant third, you as constituents. This is simply wrong. Facts, reasons, and statistics are completely ignored, no matter how compelling they are, in favor of party platform and emotion. Take, for example, a recent bill that attempted to provide a waiting period in order to curb suicides. While suicide is a serious concern, and the Federation has worked hard on the Vermont Gun Shop project to try to curb that,
a very tragic single suicide spurred those in power to push through a waiting period bill that would do little, if anything, to stop these tragedies. As opposed to focusing on cause, as opposed or better educating people on the signs of suicide, as opposed to offering more treatment options for what certainly seems like a growing problem, they blame a tool. Never mind that there appears to have been less than 5 situations in the last 20 years where a person went out, bought a firearm, and then went home and killed themselves here in Vermont. Never mind that in 2017, there were 1,141 suicide attempts, but only 3% of those attempted suicides used a firearm. Meaning that while those in power put their laser focus on the 3% of attempted suicides that use firearm, they are consciously and purposefully ignoring the 97% of suicide attempts that did not use a firearm. Never mind that the overwhelming majority of those that do commit suicide by firearm use a firearm they already own. Never mind that in the state that has adopted death with dignity, physician-assisted suicide, we want to legislatively try and stop someone who has contracted a terminal disease and wishes to die by their own hand at a time of their own choosing, without the need to beg not 1 but 2 doctors to help them end their life. Doctors who may not want to participate in this because of their Hippocratic oath to do no harm. Never mind that in 2018 there were 3,380 relief from abuse filings in the state of Vermont, which was an increase of 8% over 2017. And for those RFAs that have become temporary or permanent orders, these are people who can convince a court of law that they are in danger. We'll just ignore them and their unalienable rights to self-defense. Never mind that numerous studies have clearly stated that defensive uses of firearms are at least as common as offensive uses by criminals, with estimates ranging from 500,000 to more than 3 million defensive uses per year, within the context of there being approximately 300,000 violent crimes using 2018 numbers. No. Under the banner of, if we can only save just one life, there's those in power will consciously disregard all that they have and march in lockstep towards their goal of restricting and ultimately removing firearm rights from honest and law-abiding citizens. As you may be able to tell, I like using statistics and basic logic when I give testimony. I spend hours and hours writing, researching, rewriting, writing again to make the most persuasive arguments I can. For example, let's look at the Center for Disease Control statistics for deaths in the United States in 2017. Per the CDC, and out of an estimated population of 325 million, there were 8.5 million deaths in 2017. Of those deaths, 39,867 were deaths that were attributed in some way to firearms. Of those 39,867 deaths by firearm, 23,892 were by suicide. Another 860 were accidental or undetermined. Another 553 were legal intervention by law enforcement. That leaves 14,562 firearm deaths that can be broadly be described as firearm deaths due to gun violence. More people die of obesity, or unspecified falls, or heroin, or cocaine, or sleep apnea, or asphyxiation, to name just a few. And considering that 14,562 number, you should know that almost 14% of these gun violence deaths occur in just 7 cities, with those cities being New York, LA, Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and St. Louis. And considering these gun violence deaths further, my research shows that firearms are estimated to be in approximately 43% of American households, with estimates of those households that contain at least one firearm ranging from 43 million to 55 million. Now, if we assume that those households was where this gun violence originated from, which of course is clearly wrong, then in relation to those 14,562 deaths, between 0.33 to 0.26% of these households would have been responsible for those deaths. Stating that in reverse, over 99% of the estimated households that had firearms in them had nothing to do with gun violence whatsoever. Let's have some more fun with numbers. A conservative estimate of the number of AR-15s in this country is approximately 15 million, and those are just ARs. There are far more types of firearms that the left deems as assault weapons, especially when we consider the incredibly long list of these other types of firearms. Now, as we know, most gun violence is done with handguns. Setting aside that important fact for a moment, let's assume that all of the gun violence was attributable to just those 15 million AR-15s. Assuming that was true, which of course it isn't, that would mean that 0.097% of the total number of ARs were the cause of the gun violence. Stating that in reverse, that would mean that over 99% of the ARs in civilian hands were not the cause of that gun violence. I'd now like to switch and speak to mass shootings. I want to be very clear that I'm sure that everyone here, in fact, just about everyone in this great state and this great country, wish that these would stop. Unfortunately, however, as our society gets more and more complex, we seem to be breeding more and more people who have trouble coping. I regret to say that we will likely never see an end to sick, disturbed, or people bent on terror attacking our society, which, oddly enough, is one of the reasons I own firearms. In fact, until we as a society better address the core problem, which is the people themselves, we will only see more and more of these events, whether they are done with firearms, explosives, vehicles, fire, poisons, or any number of other ways that people can kill other people. According to Wikipedia, there were 12 mass shootings events so far in 2019 as of August 20th, with 67 total deaths, with a mass shooting being defined as 3 or more victims shot but not necessarily fatal at one location at roughly the same time, excluding organized crime and gang-related shootings, and of course excluding the death of the perpetrator if they were included. If we total up all of the mass shooting deaths using that criteria from 2016 to August 8th, 2019, we come up with 410 horribly tragic deaths. But we would still be well under the number of gun violence deaths that occurred in Chicago in just 1 year alone, with Chicago having some of the most restrictive and draconian gun laws in the country. I'll leave you with one other thought, one that I hope would be a wake-up call to the party of power in Vermont. In December of 2012, a sick individual killed 20 students and 6 adults at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. In response to this, the Connecticut legislature quickly responded by crafting a ban on the sale of assault weapons. Connecticut residents could continue to own these firearms as long as they registered by December 1st, 2013. As of January 1st, 2014, less than 50,000 Connecticut residents attempted to register their firearms. Everyone else that owned one became a felon by not registering. The estimates of the number of people who owned this type of firearm in Connecticut at the time was 350,000, yet only 50,000 registered. That's 1 in 7. Now consider New York with the New York SAFE Act, which took effect in April of 2014. Just like Connecticut, New York residents could continue to keep what they already owned, but they needed to register them. After being forced to provide that number of New York citizens who did register, we learned that less than 24,000 residents registered, while it was estimated that over 1 million New York residents owned this style of firearm. So, in just 2 states, we now know that over 1.1 million people who could pass a background check legally to purchase the firearm that was now banned, voluntarily became felons by failing to register. I submit that those 1.1 Connecticut and New York residents knew what the word infringe meant, and they acted upon the strength of their conviction. God help me if Vermont ever passes such a ridiculous law, because I would be forced to move, or worse yet, be forced to myself to become a felon. Our opposition simply does not get that many, if not most of us, will refuse to be stripped of our rights based on the thoughts of people who choose to live in fear, as opposed to securing the means to mitigate fear. To wrap up, I thank you all for your time and attention. God bless Vermont. God bless the United States. God bless our men and women who serve this country. And God bless all of you who stand up and fight like the devil for your own God-given rights. I know I'm in very good and very exceptional company. Thank you.
Statements?
Well, I'll give you some questions.
Yeah, shoot him. Come on, let's go.
No, don't shoot.
Shoot him the question.
I will put in a plug. I'm sorry I was a little bit late here. If you're not already aware, next week the Civilian Marksmanship Program is running a week-long event at Camp Ethan Allen in Jericho, Bolton.
So if you have an old Grand, or 1903 Springfield, or Millen Carnegie, or a Rimfire 22 Sporter, or pistols, or you want to learn in some small arms firing school and shoot on electronic targets, which are wicked cool, you should really check out either the VSRPA website or the CNP website. We're going to have a great event up there. So if you're interested in high-power rifle shooting, or pistol shooting, or even 22, which probably most of us have, please consider coming up to Camp Ethan Allen and to see me if you have any questions. Any other questions for me? Yes, awesome. Am I ready? I ran last year, how you doing, Mr. Howard? I ran last year in Washington County as a senator. There were 3 Republicans and 1 independent against 2 well-entrenched Democrats and a brand new gentleman by the name of Andrew Perchman. I had hoped that I might have a shot at him. Unfortunately, I would consider Washington County to be a fairly liberal bastion between Waterbury, Berry, and Montpelier. I came in 4th in a 3-way race, and my opponent beat me by 2-1. So just as we think about that, I would hope everybody that can hear me and is of voting age is a registered voter. If you are not a registered voter, then get to your town clerk. It's not hard, it's not painful. And one further message, and as a Republican that ran in Washington County and had his keister handed to him, and I worked really hard. When you go into the voting booth, and you're looking for who to vote for, I hope you do your research beforehand. In the case of Washington County, you can go into the voting booth and vote for 3 senators. There's every appearance from my looking at the numbers. A lot of Republicans went in and only voted for 1. Which, it's time for a bunker mentality, folks. I'm going to be real candid. If you see a Republican on the ballot and you don't recognize the name, he's been vetted, or she has been vetted. If it's important to you, vote for who you think is going to do the best job, because right now, they've got a $4 billion deficit in the state. They don't talk about it. Democrats and liberals have been in power, more or less, for the last 14 years in Vermont. Now we've had a Republican governor here and there, and now we have a supermajority. And they are flexing their muscles. Just think about it. We have a committee chair that will, when people go to the State House and they're not allowed to clap during a public hearing, they were stopped from waving small American flags just like what you're seeing over there. Sent chills down my spine. It was appalling. But that's what we're dealing with. We are dealing with a party that is in lockstep and they don't really care. So get out and vote. Please register to vote. If there's any questions I can handle, I'm happy to entertain them. I think we're looking at another very difficult year. The waiting period will probably be back. A waiting period that can only serve to step on the rights of somebody that needs to buy the means of defense and is going to be told to go run and hide for some period of time until they can go do so. Think about that. Anything else I can stand up here and hold my string and I'll keep talking. Are there any questions I can handle? So, Elsa, to your answer, I don't know yet. I really don't know. In fact, had I run as a representative for Berlin-Northfield, I would have taken the seat. But now I have to switch from the senator, and I run as a big R Republican, by the way, and I'm proud of it. So please consider, if you have friends that aren't registered to vote, get out to vote. Take them down to the town clerk or whatever and get them to vote. It's the only way we're going to change something. Anything else? Hearing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. At the moment, our next speaker is the front runner in our fight against the climate crisis agenda, dealing with carbon taxes. It's my pleasure to present our next speaker, Mr. J.T. Dodge.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out here today. Gotta thank those that stood this event up. It's really great to see. The thing that I always kind of notice about these types of events is that the people that are the most important usually show up. And what I mean by that is those that are really connected and paying attention to the politic and the issues. Those are the ones that make a point to show up for events like this. And it's heartening to see you guys out here. And there's some familiar faces out here that I'm impressed to be on the list. So it's great to see you all today, and so I'm going to try to fumble through this speech, but hopefully the room stays kind of a decent pitch. My name's J.T. Dodge, and I'm here to speak about the carbon tax. So who am I? Who I am requires no who my favorite people are. My wife, children and I live in Newbury, which is over by the Connecticut River at the Oxbow, below Wells River and above Bradford. Our children are homeschooled by my wife and I, and this is largely made possible because my wife has a small business that she runs from home. I teach math, science, and history, and she offers writing science in a class we call Entrepreneur 101. Entrepreneur 101 is where we teach our kids to set up an online storefront. We bought a pen maker and a laser printer to make this happen, and the reason was this. There's a reason I'll tell you this. I want my kids to understand how economics works. It's not a no-brainer. I mean, there's a lot of folks out there, I think that's obvious, that don't understand how economics works. And that there's a reward to working hard, and the path is advancing one's skills. As entrepreneurs that embrace new skills by seeking out training wherever possible, they will be financially stable, which is the basis for a good life. I want our legislatures to understand how economics works. I want them to recognize that freebies don't lead to prosperity. They lead to struggle. The taxes are burdensome, and yet within the supermajority exists a climate caucus. They want to put fees and penalties on everything. Why? Because Vermont is buried in debt, and our credit rating just got knocked to a lower status again in a relatively short period of time. I read in Digger recently that's, not to mention names, but Senator Kitchell in a supermajority here in Vermont was quoted scolding the credit rating agencies as if it was them that committed resources beyond their income budgets. So I set up a group called No Carbon Tax Vermont about a year ago. I had been following along to this topic, listening to individuals speaking out, such as Mr. Roper, Mr. McClowery, and others. These folks have been among those tirelessly speaking to how ruinous the carbon tax schemes will be to ourselves and our cherished loved ones. And I want to thank these folks, these individuals, for their commitment to the task of exposing this potential tyranny. The Ethan Allen Institute recently stated that most Vermont state government policies, plans, legislation, and spending address carbon emissions reduction. Comparatively, little thought is given to adapting our roads, our rivers, power lines, homes, and public buildings to extreme weather. The way to think of this is these folks are interested in lowering the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, but they don't actually want to do anything for any of us to navigate what they believe is going to be raucous weather, changing climate. My personal observation is that, I want to tell you right up front, I read this speech to my wife before I left, and she had a criticism of what I'm about to read, but I told her I was going to leave it in because even though it does sound a little nutty, it is nuts, and you'll see what I mean. My personal observation is that they hate humans, and they don't think very much of rural Vermonters. In general, they articulate the human being as a parasite. I'm not making this up. And therefore, it doesn't hurt them knowing that their fellow Vermonters are experiencing hardship. And this will soon be exacerbated by a carbon tax on groceries, heating a home, gasoline prices configured to rise intentionally. The state, they state that they will incentivize us to heat our homes differently, get to work differently, in ways that don't use carbon. I don't know if you know any of those ways to get to work. They don't care if your grandmother is cold or your son-in-law can't afford to get the family car inspected as a result of much more strict emissions requirements. The Ethan Allen Institute speaks to Bill S-173, which in my opinion is the most important bill to stop of the coming 2020 session. And this is what they say. The Vermont Global Warming Solutions Act, introduced this year by Senator Allison Clarkson, a Democrat from Windham, and 12 other senators. It's likely to get legislative attention in the second year of the 2019 to 20 biennium. Its statement of purpose declares that it is in the interest of the people, in order to protect the public health, preserve the economy, and promote the general welfare, that the state reduce economy-wide carbon emissions in order to address the problem of climate change. S173 would empower state government to make far-reaching decisions in virtually every arena of life in order to reduce emissions. It would not explicitly lift a finger to actually protect infrastructure or people from the threat of climate-related disaster. In fact, only one piece of environmental legislation now under consideration may address infrastructure protection against extreme weather, the proposed revision of Act 250. This is a huge rewrite. On the state's environmental planning and development law. And it's at least a year away from passage. No one knows what the final version will read. So back to me. Vermont voters must absolutely resist taxes and fees based on a carbon dioxide metric. And the reason why I say it that way, I know it sounds fishy, because if you start talking to these folks about what a carbon tax is, they'll play all kinds of games with you about what that means, and about a dividend, and about this and that. But the bottom line is, it's a tax. It's a tax no matter which way you look at it. So let's take a look at some facts about Vermont's greenhouse gas emissions. Number one, Vermont has the smallest carbon footprint in the entire country. You should be proud. Vermont has the smallest greenhouse gas emissions in the country. Vermont has the smallest number of registered vehicles on the road in the country. Vermont is 73% forest covered, making it a very substantial carbon sink, sequestering over 3 million times our annual greenhouse gas emissions. These are truths that make it impossible for the voters of Vermont to accept the false message that Vermont must take action on climate. With taxes, fees, and penalties attached to everything we do, the message of urgency holds no water for us. We're doing great. As far as carbon emissions goes, we're doing great. On a side note, you'll hear them breaking things down in relation to the percentage that we've risen since a specific year in the past. They're playing games. Yeah, okay, so we went some percentage higher than we were before. We still haven't broken 1% throughout the country, so 1%. We can do great things without a carbon tax. The No Carbon Tax Group has some great ideas and facts about our environment. We love our beautiful land here, and we don't need our arms twisted to make smart decisions that protect these green mountains. We do it every day. Let's talk about what we can do. One, we can get that wireless meter data that they promised us but never fulfilled. The meter data would be available via a third-party app, giving folks a much better understanding about how they can save themselves money. When I say saving ourselves money, we're obviously using less energy. It makes everybody happy. There are devices that can hook into your residential electric breaker boxes that can give real-time data about every device currently running in your house.
If we have the data, we can save ourselves money. And that's what we'll do. And it's just the way things work.
It's the way that, sorry. So, number three, hemp sequesters. Let's encourage innovation with hemp. Hempcrete is a lightweight, high R value cement or brick material made from hemp herds and lime. it can sequester carbon dioxide for many, many years until it eventually turns to stone. 4, we can plant trees. You ever heard of Arbor Day? Well, there's just over 600,000 people in Vermont. Imagine if we planted a single tree, each one of us, every year on Arbor Day. We could make a social media experience out of it. Half of a dry log by weight is carbon. So half of a dry piece of wood, carbon. So that's, when you grow a tree, you sequester carbon out of the air. It becomes the tree, it becomes the soil, it feeds the critters down below, things grow. And that's how, basically, the idea of how a tree sequesters carbon dioxide. It also produces oxygen in a substantial amount of it. Let's raise and grow technologists. By standing up and promoting fundraising charities that finance tech and science training spaces in every Vermont county for every Vermont student, our children will have the opportunity to learn the skills of developing the science around high energy efficiency technology. Humans solve problems. Let's educate our children to be the energy problem solvers of the future. Take a look at how far hybrid vehicles have come. They want to switch us right over to the full electric vehicles, but I'll touch on that. I'll add that dumping millions into fully electric vehicles is a waste of money, and it's a carbon tax. Currently, in New England, carbon cap and trade is put at about $5 a ton. So a ton of carbon dioxide is valued at about $5 here for about the past decade. In Canada, they have legislated the cost of carbon by ton to $20 per ton. Fully electric vehicles, so they've done this up in Canada. They pushed a bunch of just like Governor Scott is going through the process of. So as it turns out, the price of a fully electric vehicle in relation to the price of a ton of carbon dioxide puts it at about $400 a ton. That's extremely expensive when we're at $5 a ton. So when we're going to be taking actions on climate, we have to take actions that we're careful with and we research. Otherwise, well, you can see what's going to happen with the economy here. So we have loads of options, mainly because we simply produce so little greenhouse gas emission. We could stop using carbon-based fuel altogether forever here in Vermont, and it still would not be measurable. I mean that. So, just what are their bills and ideas? There is a carbon tax, a series of cap and trade schemes, carbon offsets, and other less visible carbon fees and penalties, such as vehicle inspections. And I felt that, just kind of in closing, I don't want to walk away without giving a quick, brief explanation of what these things are. I can understand that I get kind of some blank faces when I start reading off some of this stuff. I can understand why, it's not, this isn't common knowledge. So, carbon cap and trade allows, what we'll say here is that cap and trade allows the market, with cap and trade economic schemes, it's the government, not the free market. So when we call it the market, it's actually the government stating what the value of things are. So it's not really a free market, but, so cap and trade allows the market to determine a price on carbon, and that price drives what they'll say. That price drives investment decisions and spurs market innovation. We know that's not true. Carbon offsets, now that's a different thing. And recently, there was a carbon offset set up here in Vermont from a company out in California. I believe it's the first time that's been done. I don't like it. Carbon offsetting means compensating for the carbon dioxide pollution you're making, your carbon footprint, by preventing the same amount of pollution from happening somewhere else. More precisely, one carbon offset means compensating for emitting 1 ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere by preventing a ton of CO2 from entering the atmosphere elsewhere on Earth, or by removing a ton of CO2 that's already there by supporting something like tree planting, which sequesters. Burnt Mountain is a 2,800 foot high forested ridge in the Northeast Kingdom. So it says it'll be conserved by this particular group, and they've got this contract on it, where they're carbon offsetting. So this company in California produces a bunch of what they call pollution, and in order to compensate for that carbon dioxide emission, they're gonna lock up. This is important. They're gonna lock up Vermont's land. That's what's going to happen. And so, not only are they going to lock up Vermont's land, but once this becomes popular, you're going to have corporations all over the world vying for Vermont's land. And when they say vying for it, you're not going to be able to do a heck of a lot with it. All right? They're trying to sequester carbon. And so here's the thing. This Burnt Mountain project was already a protected piece of land. Nothing was going to happen with that. And so how are we offsetting carbon dioxide in California by holding on to land that's already locked up? It's just a scam. And if you listen to both sides and those that are pushing the carbon tax, there's an awful lot of them that admit that this is a scam, and they don't like it, but they're pushing carbon taxes in so many other ways. So I guess in closing, what I want to say is, I mentioned that Vermont's in a lot of trouble as far as and it's been mentioned here before. All right, so we've got a lot of debt, a load of debt, and nobody seems to be dealing with it. So think about a couple of things. Think about all those water treatment plants that are out there by all those rivers. All right, and think about the debt that we have with the pensions. I think Chris mentioned $4 billion, something like that. All these different situations that Vermont really has issues. How could we possibly take on a carbon tax scheme? We just can't. This is not, and we shouldn't have to. We produce the least amount of it. What they're trying to do is they believe that if they can get Vermont along, then they can convince other states. So they're basically victimizing us on the back of going after people that they believe are actually the problem. But they're going to call us the problem. And they're going to use a lot of things like false urgency to push that. And lastly, I just want to mention that I know that I understand that John McClowery might have spoken on Act 250. If we put a carbon metric within Act 250, it is going to cripple us. Can you imagine starting up a business that you have to announce how much carbon dioxide you're going to produce, keeping in mind almost everything we do that expends energy has something to do with carbon dioxide. So in order to start a business, which is already difficult, you're going to have to claim how much carbon dioxide are you going to emit. And when you do that, there's going to be a price to be paid. There's going to be a price to be paid, and it's going to be by the ton. I don't know anybody that can afford to do that. I don't know any business that can afford to do that. So, in closing, I thank you for listening to me speak today, and it's great to see you all out there. Thank you.
So I understand the carbon swapping better. The rich people in California can still use their big cars and their planes, and they put everything here out of business in exchange for planting trees so that we have nothing and they can still have their toys. Is that pretty much what
When you say pretty much, I would say that's pretty much the idea. I mean, there's some details to that, but essentially they're turning a piece of land into California.
they're still gonna burn all
Locking
the
it up.
energy they want. And
That's
they're
right.
locking up everything here so they can.
That's right. They'll continue emitting.
I just wanted to make sure I.
Yeah, that's true. So the company will continue emitting whatever it is that they emit, but they're going to have to compensate by the ton. So you have to know that a certain amount of tons are being sequestered over here on Burnt Mountain.
It's not gonna be just Burnt Mountain.
It won't be just Burnt Mountain. It'll be mountains. It'll be everybody that owns a large piece of land. They're going to lock that land up, and what this is going to be a great boon for people that own massive amounts of land. Because if you had massive amounts of land and people were going to pay you to hold on to those trees, you know, why wouldn't you do that? And think about the housing crisis. We don't have housing for people, and we're going to be locking up land. We have limitations on how big you can subdivide in a lot of places, but locking up land like this, it's the way that they scheme this thing is forever. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for us. You know, as long as I'm up here, I'm just going to make a point to add one last thing. So I mentioned Senator Kitchell, and I mentioned that she gave some flack to the credit rating agencies that lowered Vermont's credit. I'm going to be running for Senate in my district, which is her district, and I hope that I can if anybody's from there, I hope I can get that support. Thank you.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming to Rutland County. I'm Terry Burke, I'm the county chair. I just want to invite anyone who would be interested. Next Saturday here in Rutland, we have the American Majority Organization coming to do a training. It'll be an activist training or candidate training to include everybody who is interested at all in turning our state into the right direction. I would love to see 50 people signed up. I have flyers. You have to go online to American Majority. If you know a candidate or a town committee, anyone who's interested in helping, they should be at that training. It'll be fun. Lunch will be provided. It's 10 to 4 at the American Legion in Rutland. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Terry. I'm going. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'll be there. Our next guest has negotiated trade contracts, opened exhibitions in Russia for Betamax, set up foreign packaging plants as a source for American industry, and he's worked with 3 different presidents. He was the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate. He's also a real estate broker and has raised his family right here in Vermont. Our next speaker also does school and club presentations about the American Revolution, the Declaration, and the Constitution. Now, Mr. Zupan.
Thank you, John. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
It's good to be with you all today. How many of you get really, really excited when you realize you're standing in a place where something of great historical significance has taken place? Anybody? Since I'm a little kid, that's always gotten me excited. Well, I got good news for everybody who feels the way I do. 1 football field away from where we're all sitting or standing is just such a place. Now, you want to know more about that, but you're going to have to wait a moment, because I'm going to tell you what led up to that spot being so special. And forgive me if you already know the history I'm about to share with you, but if you love America the way I do and the way I think you do, you won't mind hearing it again. Most of you know about how we took Fort Ticonderoga, all right? You know that the Green Mountain Boys marched from Bennington through Dorset and out to take Ticonderoga from the British. What you may not know, because it wasn't one of the happiest chapters, is that a year later, the British took it back. Okay, every success has some minor setbacks, we know that. But since we were Americans, we didn't quit. What we did is we beat a strategic retreat across Lake Champlain through Hubbardton. How many know about the amazing thing that happened in Hubbardton, Vermont? Raise your hand. All right. Well, in Hubbardton, Vermont, overwhelmed colonial troops. Now, what happened was General Leclerc from Ticonderoga knew that he had to evacuate Ticonderoga because the British had the cannons pointing right down from the nearby mountain. Okay, so they beat the retreat. They were being pursued by the British to Hubbardton. He said, they're going to overtake us and it's going to be a bad day. So he lined up a few hundred troops on the road. And those few hundred troops met the British at Hubbardton. Now, while they didn't beat them militarily, we won tactically. Why? Because the British had to go back to Ticonderoga. What does that mean? The colonial army escaped south to Bennington. They escaped south to Bennington, and in Bennington you probably know that we had one of the first really big victories over the British. And why was that significant? Well, that was significant because we weakened the British, we weakened the Hessians, so that when Burgoyne tried to fight a land-based, face-to-face battle at Saratoga, he lost. He lost big time. And that victory was so big for the Americans that the French, who were looking on closely, said, these Americans, they know how to fight. Maybe we come in on their side off their own. Yeah. Well, the French came in, and that was so important, because I'm going to skip a lot of important history. But at the final battle at Yorktown, it was the French who helped us with their mortars to trap Cornwallis in Yorktown, while the French Navy bottled them in so they couldn't escape. So Cornwallis waved the white flag, and at Yorktown, we finally won the decisive battle of the Revolution. Okay, that was great. Now, you might be wondering, but what about that football field from where we're standing? Well, you see that road out there we now call Route 7? That's where the colonial army, retreating from Hubbardton to live to fight another day in Bennington, marched right down that road. I don't know if that gets you excited, but it really gets me excited. So, I thought you'd like hearing that. I certainly like talking about it.
Doesn't that blow your mind?
So, besides that being a great story that I hope got the goosebumps on the back of your neck up like it does mine, what has that got to do with today? Well, everything. What's the title of today's event? Anybody know? What are we here celebrating? Liberty! Can I hear it again? Louder? Liberty! Oh yeah. That's liberty. I want to give you my personal opinion. You can argue with me if you want. But after life itself, liberty is the most precious commodity we have. Can I get an amen? That's why this Liberty Fest has teeth. That's why we're standing here. That's why we're standing for what we believe, because we know that liberty is exactly what our political opponents have been gnawing away at with their ratty little teeth. Yeah.
Amen to that.
That's why our Declaration of Independence, and I know you've heard it a million times, holds these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know about you, but I love hearing it, I love saying it, which is why, by the way, I go around to schools dressed up as a Revolutionary War major, and I give a little reenactment of what happened in the Revolution. Invite me to your school and I'll come. So these were simple words in 1776, but what those words did is they shook the crusty old European kingdoms to their knees. Why? Because if it's true that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are unalienable rights, where does that leave all of those self-important kings of Europe? It leaves them nowhere. It leaves them outclassed, outgunned, outprincipled, and beat, which is why we won the revolution, and it's why every successful country on the face of the earth since 1776 has, to one degree or another, modeled our principles, modeled our revolution, modeled our Declaration, and modeled the U.S. Constitution, which sprung from the depths of liberty-loving Americans. My friends, those ringing words, along with the American Constitution, have given the world the most valuable set of words and phrases put together since God first inspired the scriptures 2,000 years ago. But you don't have to believe that the scriptures are inspired by God to believe that the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States were inspired by men and women who put their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor completely on the line to preserve and to build it. And a lot of them gave their lives, their fortunes, but not their sacred honor. So let me tell you, it is because of living people with chains unshackled and living in freedom, which we do still, are able to walk, to choose, to live out our personal highest destiny. Each American living out his highest destiny in freedom adds up to a country of 320 million people who all have the opportunity to do that, and it's called the United States of America. Yeah. But as Benjamin Franklin said, it's a republic if you can keep it. Now, what did old Ben have in mind? What did old Ben prophetically envision might go wrong with this republic? That he warned his countrymen, it's a republic if you can keep it. It means that, as Franklin foresaw, there will be people, maybe we've seen a couple, who wish to trample our freedoms and desecrate our rights given by God and enshrined in the Constitution and acknowledged and preserved in the very Bill of Rights. Just this week, you're going to think I'm making this up, but listen closely to what I have to say to you. Just this week, the New York Times, just this week, the New York Times came up with this cockamamie theory. Now, listen to this. You're going to think I'm making this up, but please check it online when you go home. They have started something called the 1619 Project. You know what the 1619 Project chooses to enshrine as the centerpiece founding of America? It's the first slave ship that came to America. They want to ignore what every school child when I was growing up knew, that in 1776 was the founding of America. It's when we declared independence. It's when we acknowledge what Jefferson wrote, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. They want to bypass that and teach our children that the founding of our country was based on an evil event of the first slave ship coming to America. No. How about this, New York Slimes? The founding of America is what gave us a document whose fulfillment through the blood and sweat of 600,000 Civil War Americans and countless others ever since gave freedom and liberty and equal rights to everybody, no matter what the color of their skin or their ethnicity. So New York Slimes, I think you better go back and read the history book that I read in the 5th grade and I could write essays on better than your 1619 travesty rewrite of American history. But I'm just using that as an example. because, like JT was talking about, the chewing away of our revenue in our pockets with new carbon tax. You remember the Beatles, right? You try to walk, I'll tax your feet. You try to drive, I'll tax the street. Tax man? Well, carbon tax is just another example of them finding another way to stick their hands in our pockets. And as Kate Bowen so eloquently talked about, the overwhelming restrictions on agriculture, as if governmental entities know anything more about farming than the people who've been multi-generationally sweating through learning and doing in freedom, is ridiculous. The chewing away of our freedoms is why we're here, to resist, to stand for our liberty. So, let me ask you, why would people of good conscience try to destroy our country? Well, maybe they're not of good conscience for starters. Why would they do this? To desecrate and smear our nation, the very nation whose charter was able to do what they say has not been done. Are we a perfect nation? Is there always going to be something that you can find to criticize America? Is every shred of racism extracted from every human heart? No! Just like there's no such thing as a perfect nation for one very basic reason. There's no such thing as a perfect human. That's right. But we are poised and always have been a country that enables people to bring out the best of who they are and what they do. Yes. So we encourage each other to more noble enterprises. We encourage our neighbors when they start a new business. We encourage our kids when they go to school. We encourage our neighbors whenever they try to raise themselves up and do better than what they've done before. And we remember that we've been given a country that has made that possible. So what are we to do? We are to remain vigilant to what our government leaders and politicians are doing. We are to protest their violations and usurpations of our rights and our property. That's right. When we see expansions of Act 250, I got news for you. The only time humans are carbon neutral is when they're dead. That's right. Carbon is a good thing. Ask all those trees out there, they love it. Do you think it's just a coincidence that we exhale carbon dioxide, inhale oxygen, and the trees exhale inhale carbon dioxide, and exhale the oxygen we need? That's just not a coincidence, is it? So, when we see Act 250 ready to choke the life out of building and economic growth, when we see local control of schools and school choice obliterated, when we see the Second Amendment gnawed at by those raggy little teeth I talked about before, by sneaky little legislative and executive teeth, when we see new taxes and deficit spending, it's time to say, enough! Yes. We need to elect those men and women who would like to see that, as Abraham Lincoln said, that this nation of the people, by the people, and for the people will not perish from the earth. Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I wanted to mention again that I love to go around to schools and private clubs and home schools and put on my Revolutionary War costume and do a little teaching reenactment of Major Gideon Ormsby from Manchester, or give a little talk called Brush Fires of Freedom, which I guess you got a little bit of an idea today what it might be about. So please invite me, pick up a flyer from which Rob is waving, and call me up. It's free. I'd love to come and do it. It's part of my service to Vermont. Thank you. I love you. God bless you. If you have any questions, I'll attempt to answer them. Thank you very much.
parents, definitely if you have some event, give parents a call. You've seen how dynamic you can be here. If you can educate the kids, let's do it. Our next speaker is a practicing Vermont attorney, farmer, food activist, prolific writer and journalist, and charity founder whose family has a long history in Vermont. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. John Clark.
Thank you, sir. Tell me if I get it wrong as far as, direction. Not all of you know me, and I'm looking forward to knowing all of you. Is this okay?
It's better.
Yeah, I need my wife first. I was worried to get too loud. Nope, she's over there. So a couple of comments I want to say to tie together some of the things that these wonderful people are saying today is that... Okay, thank you. There was a young lady who asked Kate about the regulations between the state and the federal government and farmers. And I wish to explain to everyone that the federal government is implementing regulations through our State Department of Legislature in a very insidious way to control our food supply nationally. It's not paranoia. They know there's money in food. And that we'll surrender our guns, our rights, for two things, food and Suboxone, which have got 43,000 Vermonters now in Suboxone and no plan to get them off. So I just want to point out that the problem with food and farming is profound. It is our culture, it is our background, and it's not to be underestimated in what we're fighting here, because this effort is cultural genocide. Does everyone understand all of these things that people are talking about are of a piece, and we need to be aware that we need to fight it of a piece, because they want to separate it. They're not. The same people that are pro-abortion, are pro-Black Lives Matter, are pro-Antifa, are pro-carbon tax. This is a war, as Joe Biden has said, for the soul of America. He's on the wrong side. The DNC announced this week that the party is secularist. Second of all, let's be grateful for the Democrats for doing what they're doing. I call it whack-a-mole. Does everybody know whack-a-mole? Keep that in your mind. You're doing us a favor. Well, really, it's so distressing to us. But unless they come up with a carbon tax, take away our guns, transgender surgery our children, the people aren't going to come out of the woods. There are many people in Vermont that do not vote. And while we do not have a huge turnout today, we have the players here. You are the people of the intensity and the devotion and the knowledge. We need to spread the knowledge. The reason I write articles is to equip people. They don't know what's going on. The world is so complex. Who can keep track of everything going on in the legislature? So their cynicism goes back to, well, I'm just going to paint my barn and do this. But they're coming after us. And they're coming after our lives. And I also made this comment. If you've ever worked in a church, it's not the pastor to build a church. You need 10 good Christians. And if they want to build that church, they will. People want to serve. Still closer? Okay. I'm going to do some Frank Sinatra. People want to clean the floors and put out the candles and set up the bulletins. And this is a church. We all have a place to play in this, what we're doing right now. So I'm really humbled and excited by so many good people here. As we all know, we've got some of the foremost leaders in our state that have been at this for decades. And it's wonderful to see the energy of people coming together for this event. And this is just the beginning. I'm telling you, this is a planning session, in my view. The people in Vermont don't know quite that this is moving along, but when they do, they're here. They're desperate for somebody to listen to their voices because they're being ignored. You can't wear a MAGA hat. You can't wave a flag in your own legislature. We're going to come back to this, but this has to do with the Constitution and what Lawrence was saying, what John was saying, what Chris Bradley was saying. It comes back to the Constitution, all that array of rights that we're talking about. So it's been mentioned, I should mention I'm not admitted in the state of Vermont. I am an attorney admitted for 30 years in Flatland in Connecticut. And I am not, please let me proceed. So, but I live off-grid, my wife and I, on family land that we purchased, that we inherited from my great-great-great-great-grandfather, and it's in my children's name and my grandchildren's name. And I'm also Abenaki on my dad's side, so that means I get to say who a true Vermonter is, according to Kaya Morris. She said only Native Americans, what do they call Native peoples? So I'm demonstrating my genetic roots so I can ask her to leave. But my point is, she'd be welcome here if she would embrace our values, to use her own philosophy. Of course, the Abenaki are largely gone, so it's nice to pick up people to defend that don't exist. If you're going to go to 1619, Lawrence, why don't we go back to make it Cro-Magnon America? How far do you go back? What they did to the Abenakis is what they're doing to us. They're denigrating our culture. They're treating us like dirt. They're killing people on opiates. And we, Vermonters, know that we're not racists. We elected Obama just behind Hawaii. We were the highest rate. Do you know that Vermont is the only state with more college-educated black people than white on average? But if they bring enough up from the inner cities, they're going to hurt that statistic too. Kaya Morris has 2 degrees. A lot of white Vermonters don't, but I digress. So, it doesn't matter where you're born. Everybody agree? You moved here last week and you want to embrace Vermont values, please join us. And if you've been here for your whole life and you want to take away our freedoms and institute a carbon tax, I think we should give you $10,000 to leave. That's just me. It's about time somebody said this. Everybody's afraid of defending themselves for what we are. And we don't need to be afraid anymore because we're coming together. And I'm telling you, the energy in this room is just the beginning. This country will be won by conservatives next year. There will be much gnashing of teeth, I can tell you, on the left. But our challenge is to win Vermont. And Scott Walker gave us our marching orders. He said, you know, I did it, you can do it. We all said, that can never. Yes, it can. And it's all right here. It's in you people. It's in Vermonters. So I'm going to share a little story about myself to hopefully you can relate. So we're living off grain, and we don't have a lot of money. And about 8 years ago, we decided to build on my great-great-great-grandfather's land, which I'm surrounded by all my redneck cousins, so it's a great place to settle in if you get there. And so I cut the timbers myself. It took me 2 winters. It took me 2 years to build a foundation out of granite rock. So the state came along with the town last year, and they've appraised our 6.5-acre piece of land with the house, which has no septic, no water, no plumbing, no electric. God bless my wife for living in the woods with us. They've appraised it at $140,000, which is almost $2,500 a year in taxes. Anybody can relate to this part? I meet people all the time who say, I pay $10,000 a year just to keep my family land. Anybody else hear that? Anybody else hear that? Sorry, when I get too close, I echo heat. I come over here. So, if we took that a little further, we'd say that if I have a $2,500 a year liability for the next 30 years, because it'll go up on my land, that's the equivalent of a $65,000 mortgage at yesterday's rates of 3.87%. Only when I get that mortgage paid off in 30 years, it's going to be way bigger, is it not? The taxes are going up. How many people are working? Road crews and things to pay 10, 12, 15 grand a year? And many of them are in current use. And current use isn't giving them relief because the state keeps spending faster than we can save. Because they're deaf to Vermonters. And it's time the Vermonters were given a voice. Now please permit an off-grid Vermont farmer to explain a little tax law for you. That's why it's okay. I raise sheep, but I was a tax attorney for years, so I didn't know what I was learning that for. Let me share with you. So recently we learned that T.J. Donovan and the state diverted some $750,000 from our state coffers to cover Planned Parenthood's operations instead of receiving federal funds. If everyone doesn't know about this, this was money that we get every year since 1970 from the feds to support healthcare services for women through Planned Parenthood, a portion of which is for abortions. And T.J. Donovan and Planned Parenthood and the others said, you know what, we're not taking that money from you anymore. We set some money aside of our own out of Vermont state taxpayers' money. Now, whatever you might feel about that issue, when they take $750,000 of their money and use it for one purpose politically, I call that taxation without representation. But we need to hold their feet to the fire because they've also said, we don't want any more money from the federal government, ever. So it's $750,000 a year plus of our money, aside again from the issues, that's just being turned down. But let's put this in perspective. Vermont's been promising pension benefits to teachers and healthcare benefits, and you have read in the news recently that that's now estimated to be in the red by $4.5 billion, which is a lot of money. And if you wanted to go out and borrow $4.5 billion as a state with a bond issue, you'd actually have to go to the voters and justify it, would you not? But if you just promise it unfunded to people that work for the state, 12,400, some of them, plus the teachers, nobody knows. Taxation without representation? Taxation with representation? Who cares? They're just off the charts. But that number is a lie. Okay? Finance background executives. Bring people here to help me to make sure. So they've predicted that they're going to be $4.5 billion shy for our teachers, based on predicting that they'll always earn 7.3% on the investments that they have set aside. Now, we could get some kindergartners in here and explain it to everybody, but what the state has used is an absurd figure. Can anybody get a guaranteed 30-year rate of return of 7.3% right now? When mortgage rates are 3.87% yesterday because they bumped up, that's twice. Let's not forget a bank account. And it could be that the economy or stock market goes down. It happens in capitalist societies. This legislature has put the rosiest live picture on our pensions. This is the verge of bankruptcy. And conferring with some people that are fiscally in the know and not lying, some of our candidates, the real number could be more like $8 billion. Let alone if you go negative on your investments. And it's open-ended because they're still promising more and more unlimited benefits to these people. I know against teachers, they're going to get the haircut, they're buying the line, we're paying the tab. So if we put it another way, we say that $750,000 that they just gave away from our coffers in rejection on principle, ironically, what if we put that every year into the pension fund? And if we did that, then in 10,667 years, we would have paid it off. It's not funny. It's math. And what they're doing is they're avoiding math. They're avoiding race. You're a racist. All right, don't have to talk to you anymore. You're a racist. I asked an officer tonight, a police officer this afternoon, a state trooper, and I said, they're calling state troopers racist. You know what she did? Well, I'm not a racist. I just, you don't have to defend yourself. We don't have to defend ourselves anymore. It's been said, we're the Nazis in Vermont. All I see is a bunch of McCarthyites going, you have to listen to me because the Nazis are coming. The Nazis are coming. No, Antifa's coming. Black Lives Matter are coming. They're violent, amorphous groups that want to tear down our society in the name of liberating us. It is chaos. It's time that we all wrote more articles to inform people. Everybody here knows that if everybody knew what's going on, they would get mad and get out of the woods. Let's tell them, we don't control our media. Vermont Digger does. We're totally living in some kind of Soviet world. We don't have free speech. So many people here are working to make people look and listen to both sides of these issues. Government doesn't have to shrink. It grows bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes a virus on the host, which is the people. Doesn't matter if it's state, local, or federal, and this is as old as the world. And at some point it gets so big, so inefficient, that we have a revolution and we rise up. We either have a revolution with guns, or we have a revolution with the ballot box. I'm suggesting that we're having the second right now, perhaps to avoid the first. Some are talking that way, and we shouldn't talk that way. The framers knew this. As Lawrence has shared with you, they crafted a document to try to restrain that government. Because they knew that this would happen. Gentle hit. Thank you. But the people that are around us now, the progressives, they think they can shatter all restraints of the Constitution, of finance, of math, of common sense. They're just without condemning them because they're well-intentioned, to think that government can be used to solve every issue, as Lawrence pointed out, to heal every wrong, to eliminate every inequity, is absolutely insane. Government has proven they can't do much very well. And along comes the carbon tax. When Vermont borrows $8 billion plus, that's just one thing. The numbers are literally a bankruptcy. If we fiscal conservatives do not overcome social issues used to distract us, like watch the birdie, and get down to the math and tell Vermonters, this is what we're going to do. They just want somebody to say something they're going to do, rather than all these generic condemnations of people. And it's not just in taxation that we are not being represented. Our schools are being closed in the name of solving financial problems, but now in some places school children are bused 1 hour to school each way, and still the education tab went up. And I think those buses are not green. I think those buses are using a little fuel an hour each way. Money's taken from improving our dirt roads that people drive to work on and used to build bike paths and commuter parking lots, as John McCarty has written about, I believe, correct? Stole that from John. Thank you for your work. They wish to exempt brand new electric cars from sales tax. And I just got a new car for $1,500 that they booked at $3,300, and I had to go fill out a form. I spent days going back and forth, and I was in the middle of a SWAT team operation in Montpelier when I went to motor vehicles with my forms. Seriously, anybody know about that? I couldn't, because they booked my car at $3,300. This is a car that, how many times has it been sales tax paid already? So I'm going to pay my sales tax so somebody else can buy a $40,000 brand new EV, and the rest of us are getting kicked out of our cars because they might have a little scratch, a little hole in it. We're taking perfectly good vehicles off the road from people that don't have money for another vehicle. These are the Vermonters that aren't being represented, and they haven't been heard, and when they are, then we have the swing votes. Okay, we have the win here if we just educate Vermonters, A, about what's happening, and B, that they have competent leadership to change it. Before we are totally broken. Totally broke. I say again, it's not just taxation that we are being controlled without representations. Our leader calls us, they call us racist, and set up committees calling Vermont a white supremacist culture. T.J. Donovan did this.
What?
It's in articles. That's why I write articles, so you folks can find out what they've done with our money. They filled this committee with, quote-unquote, stakeholders. Stakeholders are generally not in this room. Stakeholders are people who are people of color who come live here. Carpetbagger people who come here to tell us how to live. I think you should come here and learn how we live. Our police, if they arrest minority drug dealers, are called racists right now. Both our governor and our attorney general have literally called our state police racists for arresting black and Hispanic people at higher rates than whites in traffic stops. And as a former criminal defense attorney for many years in Connecticut, as a special public defender, I can tell you that my clients were predominantly black and Hispanic. The Crips, the Salidos, the 20 Loves, they don't let white people in. You can kill a white person to get in. This is reality. So for us to open the borders, to say that we have to let people come here illegally, when we have the 90% of the fentanyl and heroin coming to Vermont is over the Mexican border, and when it gets here, our government and Attorney General are telling our police, don't arrest them, you're racist. And using that statistic to rewrite our textbooks to tell all of our school children that they have inherited a white supremacist culture and they should feel bad about that. And I'm not going to do it myself.
Population replacement.
It is happening, and it is complex, and they're counting on us not getting involved in form to respond in time. And it's time to call them out. And everybody who's doing that, how are we going to fight against these people who are highly organized with out-of-state money, out-of-state advisors, and out-of-state nastiness? We already have what we are. It's right here in this room. You all know the people we're talking about. If we just communicate with them, not all the money in the world, will turn Vermonters back. And I tell you right now, I don't need to hire an analyst from Utah or Iowa to advise us how to win an election that installs true Vermonters in the Vermont legislature. You are all right here. And you're in touch with that which they don't comprehend. We call ourselves the Vermont Spartans. Everybody know the story? I tell you now that my ancestors are here behind us. The people who dug into these hills, this clay soil for decades in poverty are now called racist by these toxic outsiders who are not here. When my family was struggling for generations on a farm that was very difficult to subsist on. And we're proud of that, aren't we? We're not proud of the bad way, we're proud in a gritty, humble way. That's what we want to do. Leave us alone. Our ancestors call upon us now with their bones to defend their noble, humble culture, which is under siege, because they're not going to do it for us. And our children and our grandchildren need us to preserve this culture for them. And when Kate talks about food, there's nothing better for children than raising them on a farm. We proved it. We didn't know it, now we know it. Make them miserable. They'll spend their whole lives, yes. It's a theory I have. Spoil the brats, and they get to be 18 and they're all depressed and they want a free check forever. It's true. It's about values. Farmers have values, don't they, Kate? Enough of carpet baggers traveling here to put us down and control our schools, our farms, and our wallets. That's what they're doing. And we're letting them pick them. And I can tell you, there may not be a huge number of people here today, but there are a huge number of people here today. We represent them, do we not? When they know that what you folks are doing, when they know it, they're going to come out. And the adversaries will too. They think they own this state, and they're going to be the biggest shocker of all. They don't have a very good Democratic candidate yet, by the way, as governor.
They don't have a good Republican governor.
Well, that's going to change. Diversity is valuable, and Vermont's unique culture is deserving of preservation and defense as one of many diverse cultures. Not to be destroyed as inferior, like Abenakis. Do you see what they're doing to us, to our culture? They want to make it about race. It's not about race. So here's what we do. We take back our checkbooks. We take back and defend our culture and our schools. We protect and stand up for our police and our children. And in order to do this, we must take back our government. You must take back your government. You must not be complacent or give up hope while they organize. They're very organized. We want Kate to run. No arm twisting there. We want 100 Kates to run. We need competent people. And yes, we have a problem with a governor who does not inspire a lot of support right now. And that's exactly the problem. This is the support. There's a team here. This is a church of sorts. Everyone's welcome, whatever your faith. But that model of service, when you come alongside, that's the Spartans, by the way. Right? Noble, bonded. You know who the people are, who have the experience, the drive, and the integrity to win a seat in the House or Senate. Nobody up here is going to do this alone. This needs to be a populist movement. It's different from politics as usual. We feel it, don't we? Does everybody feel it?
Yes.
When the Vermonters get mad, frankly, some of us would say that we've been taking it and getting kicked in the butt for 100 years. And we've been called and denigrating farmers and denigrating the people who work hard for years by people who don't know how to boil an egg and they're lost when their cell phone won't work. We're going to stick to our guns. Farming. For my part, I have no other place to go. I don't want to retire to an RV and live in a Walmart parking lot. People are doing that. We know people from Vermont that sold their farm because they couldn't pay it anymore on a fixed income. Other young people living in tiny houses. I mean, they're the smart ones. I'm not doing that. I've woven my identity into a house that isn't going to move well. It's got a granite foundation. And they keep taxing. What happens when I put in the septic system? I will live here free or I will die fighting. And I know that many of you are in the same plight. The writing is on the wall. We have to get together and overcome our differences to unite and then divide them by highlighting their divisions. Fight, Green Mountain Spartans, that's what we like to say. Fight and die together at the polls. With every fiber of your being, with every aspect of this. We need candidates, we need supporters, we need people to collect money, we need people to campaign. Or else, watch your children and grandchildren owned in servitude, brainwashed in their schools, dependent on Suboxone because of despair, graduating under a government debt they can never hope to repay. That's what's happening to Vermont. Whatever is happening nationally, Vermont is on the brink of financial, cultural, and political bankruptcy. Rise and fight. You don't get another chance. The pen is mightier than the sword. John would agree, I hope. And we now have the internet. Right, organize, vote, run for office. Let's be creative, busy Spartans. Let's be relevant to our time. This movement has already begun. You see it here. I'm excited to see so much excitement. And we stand before you today with an oath that we will lead you into the breach. All of us, like Kate said, we'll park cars, we'll do whatever we want. That we will fall dead before you rather than falter. We are you, and you are us. We are the Green Mountain Spartans. Stand with us. Be us. Be that candidate. And if not, find that candidate. This day right now we have to go forward and get her done, as Vermonters said. We need people with finance and then farmers to make them get it done, right? Farmers do hard work. I thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm really honored to know so many wonderful Vermonters. My whole life, Vermonters were not measured by wealth. We must show the nation and the world that we are not a subjugating culture. We hail from rugged, individualistic stock. Let us reclaim that which we Vermonters are. Let us take back the constitutions. Vermont had the first state constitution in America. Let's take it back. And the United States Constitution at the same time. And we can wave flags at the State House. The carbon tax is not constitutional. The regs they've been imposing on the farmers are not constitutional. I don't know about Act 46. I don't think it's constitutional. And we don't have a free press. We're losing our entire Constitution. If we were just to preserve that, we already won. And by the way, we've been having fun calling ourselves the Green Mountain Spartans. But in 2020, we are a libertarian and conservative collection of farmers, citizens, and business people bonded together to identify specific policy goals that we will then achieve. We are neither Phil Scott the liberal, nor the paralyzed GOP that fears to challenge him. And in 2020, we will be displacing Phil Scott and the Democrats in Vermont, and we will be called the Ag-Republicans. Right? To distinguish ourselves, we are farmer conservatives who are open to all, and we're trying to unify many people on the right. Now, by the way, if you are a classic liberal and you stayed in the middle, you just became a conservative. Anybody notice that? Yes. They shifted everything. Like, well, I've always been a liberal. What the heck are you doing? You don't have free speech rights. Many Vermonters are drawn to a platform that would bring down their taxes, regardless of their other views. Many Vermonters who are liberals don't want their children to be administered transgender surgeries behind their backs. They don't want a carbon tax that the government has a record of messing up. So we all here today are on the team as we find out where we're going forward. Let us be excited, spread the word to others, and have that energy, because you know, don't you all know there are people out there that we're speaking for every one of us? Don't we know there are people in the woods that will vote if they believe that the leadership has arrived. It's here in this room. It's all of you. I am so proud to be standing with all of these groups that take their time and commitment and do this, not for money. God bless you all, and thank you very much. Questions for Kate? Kate answers questions. Kate here.
You're a good
Are there any questions?
You're a good delegate, very well.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much. Okay, so I hear a lot of, oh, by the way, okay, so here's my announcement. I'm here representing John Birch Society. The idea behind this particular John Birch Society is to teach people about the Constitution. You know, the kids go to school, they don't know, I see this stand-up Donald Trump over there, I'm thinking, it's Donald. Anyway, the children don't know what the Constitution is, and so we want to teach them. And that's what the John Birch Society has been doing since 1958. If you take a copy of the magazine here, I've got it open to a section that says, Marxist Conquest of the Democratic Party. There's a lot of Democrats, usually they're probably older people, who they don't like the idea that the Marxists are taking over the Democratic Party, so we can convert them. We don't need to bring Democrats into the Republican Party and they behave like Democrats. We have to get them to behave like Republicans, real Republicans, constitutionalist Republicans. So we need to educate them on the Constitution. Sometimes people, everybody in here, we need to educate ourselves a little bit better on the Constitution. So I have copies here for everybody here. I've opened it up to page 21, which has this article, but it has other things on artificial intelligence. That's something we really don't have to deal with. They're going to enslave us with technology. They're going to enslave us financially. That's what they're doing now, enslaving us financially. But they will enslave us with technology, these smartphones and everything else that goes along with it. Pretty soon they'll want microchips. So we've got to stop it. And now is the time. There is no tomorrow. We have to work towards this now. I could go on a history as to why. This is a convergence. What's happening here is a convergence of technologies and political forces that have been around for 2,700 years. They want to dominate the world. And I could give you a lengthy explanation as to how, I have to go back 2,700 years, and I'd gladly do it, but you wouldn't want to hear it. And I might offend some people too. But the point is that the international bankers have taken control of everything. The Rockefellers and the Rothschilds are actually contract agents for another larger entity that's been around for 2,700 years. And they've been using their financial resources to enslave us. And they've actually taken over the United States. They've taken over the revolution that our founding fathers, bled for on this land and created it. And there's a song called The Monster by Steppenwolf. And in the song it talks about, all the wonderful things that, the Pilgrims came, but there was this other thing that came along with it. Well, the other thing that came along with the Pilgrims is this conspiracy to take over the revolution. And that conspiracy is what we're dealing with right now. And that's why we have all these different, whether it's the sexual issues, whether it's the drug issues, whether it's the monetary issues, the taxation issues, the gender issues, all these issues are coming from one fountain. It's not just naturally growing up like the mushrooms. And so we need to recognize this. If you don't recognize the problem, if you cannot diagnose the problem, you can't fix it. But we'll work on it. So again, I have, please come over. If you would, put your name, and give us your name, and address, and email address, and we will give you 3 free months of The New American online, and you can come and get a free copy of The New American. And there was a guy named Congressman Hanson. He was from Georgia, and I think he was in the 70s. And he became a congressman because he organized John Birch meetings and taught people about the Constitution. And and within these, within the John Birch meetings that he organized, that's all they would do is just teach about the Constitution. But outside of that, people recognize this guy. Hey, that's the constitutionalist guy. And then he ran for Congress. And then he became a very famous congressman. And he wanted to audit the Federal Reserve. And so, through the international bankers and the connections they had, they blew the airliner out of the sky. That was the Korean airliner, 007, which, gee, why did they do that? Why did the Russians shoot that down? Because Congressman Hanson was on there, and he wanted to audit the Federal Reserve. So, if you want to get a shot out of the sky when you're on an airliner, set up an organization where, I'm only kidding. It's supposed to laugh when I say that. But, set up
meetings. You know, join the John Birch Society and use it as a grid to build a constitutionalist grid here within the state. And I could talk about other things too, but I won't. Thank you. It's supposed to be a brief announcement.
Next speaker up on the block is President of the Ethan Allen Institute, conservative and common sense political activist. With great pleasure, I present to you Mr. Rob Roper.
Hello. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. So when John asked me to speak today, I was very enthusiastic to do it. I said, what do you want me to talk about? He gave me my subjects. He said, I want you to talk about the conservative resurgence in Vermont. I said, yeah, that's cool. That's fun. That's going to be an awesome talk. I talk about the conservative resurgence in Vermont. And I sat down, I started my computer, I'm typing up some notes, and all of a sudden it hits me, what conservative resurgence in Vermont? I mean, I looked around the last election, the Republicans lost a dozen House seats. They fielded about 80 candidates for 180 legislative seats. That doesn't sound like much of a resurgence to me. There should be a conservative resurgence in Vermont. If we were living in a rational world, there would be a conservative resurgence in Vermont, because the left-wing activists that have taken control of the reins of power in our state are absolutely bat-poop crazy. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at what is going on in the State House, I've been going down there for almost 20 years now. This last session was just insane. The stuff that was going on. I mean, we've got some real problems in Vermont today. I mean, if you think about it, we just, somebody mentioned, I think it was John Clark or one of the other speakers mentioned it, 2 rating agencies have downgraded our bond rating in just this past year. That means they don't think that we can pay back money we borrow. That means that we are spending money faster than we can pay it back. That's a really big problem. We have an education system in Vermont that is defying all logic by costing more and more money every year when the number of students in the system continues to decrease. How does that work? How do they make that happen? How do they get away with it? But somehow they do. Then, of course, you've got the Green Mountain Care Board. Let me tell you about this thing. You've seen the rate increases that they just approved, the Green Mountain Care Board. This is an entity, a bureaucratic entity that was created in order to manage a single-payer healthcare system that doesn't exist. But the Green Mountain Care Board is still there. They have a multi-million-dollar-a-year budget, ostensibly, so they're doing the work of reining in healthcare costs, and they just approved double-digit increases in the premiums for Blue Cross Blue Shield and MVP. This is your government at work, people. I mean, in a sane world, there would be a Republican resurgence. In a sane world, you know, people would look at this and say, this isn't gonna fly. We can't have you people in charge anymore. We were gonna replace you with literally anybody else. But what do they do? As I said, I've been going out of the legislature for 20 years, something close to that. Are they going to address this? Are they going to rein in spending? Are they going to deal with the demographic crisis that we're facing in the state, with young people leaving? You can't keep young professionals in the state. Middle-class people are fleeing the state. There's just a report on WCX. You think they're going to lower the cost of living? No. What are they going to do? We're going to ban plastic bags at the grocery store, when you check out, or at the local Live and Dime. We're going to ban the plastic bags. Yeah, that seems like a really legitimate use of government force, doesn't it? Banning plastic bags. You know, next month's Columbus Day. Not anymore. That's another big thing that they did down in the State House this last session. They eliminated Columbus Day. They changed it to Indigenous Peoples Day. And you know, I mean, that's all well and fine, and it's very nice for the Native Americans. It's a little bit insulting to the Italian Americans. I don't know if Representative Kupali is still here. Let's see what he thinks about that. But still, it's not going to lower your property taxes. You know what else they did? All these problems I just mentioned? They went out and they passed, well, they didn't pass it, but they put forward a constitutional amendment to ban slavery in the state of Vermont. Ban slavery. Apparently, they did not get the memo from the Lincoln administration in 1865. But no, that was big important stuff that they did. In a normal, rational society, I mean, these people wouldn't be allowed to be left alone with a pack of matches, let alone $6 billion of our tax money. Now, there's another little bit of silliness that I have to talk about, and it's the priorities. I mentioned the fact that we have this demographic crisis, and we've got young people leaving the state. In fact, the Lake Champlain Chamber of Commerce did a survey this past April, I think it was, and they asked, I think it was 500 young professionals in the Burlington area, do you plan on staying in Vermont? And 40% of them said, no, we want to get out. Well, why do you want to get out of Vermont? It's such a beautiful place to live. We can't afford a house. We can't afford to rent. There aren't enough career opportunities for us in the state to pursue. So again, if you're a legislator, in the legislature, you go to the Golden Dome, you think you're going to fix this? How are you going to make housing more affordable so young people can afford to live here, buy that first home, or get that apartment when they move here? No. They're not interested in it. They say, well, okay, you young people say housing is an important issue for you, but how about we skip the whole housing thing? What if we raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour? Will you stay if we do that? No. No, that's not what we're asking you to do. That doesn't help us with affordable housing. What we want you to do is we want you to lower the cost of housing. Get it through your head. We really lower the cost of housing. Well, all right, well, how about this? How about instead of lowering the cost of housing, we give you a paid family leave program? No, that's not what we want. We want you to lower the cost of housing. How many times do we have to say this to you? We're trying to live here, we want a house. Lower the cost of housing. No, okay, tell you what. We could reform Act 250. All right. Reform Act 250, that's great. Act 250 is at the root cause of the high costs of housing. It makes everything very expensive to build. It takes forever to build houses under Act 250, trying to get a permit, all this stuff. Tear out that red tape. You're going to reform Act 250, great. Tell me your ideas. I'm excited. Well, we thought that what we could do is, if you wanted to build anything, it would have to be carbon neutral. In which case, you're going to have to use very expensive building materials, you're going to have to use very expensive building processes, you're going to have to go a long permitting process to determine that it's not carbon neutral, and if it is creating carbon, then you're going to have to buy carbon offsets to build a house. Okay. So we're telling you that the most important issue facing the state for keeping young people here is expensive housing, and your idea of reforming Act 250 is to make housing more expensive. You're idiots. How do we get away with this? I mean, in a rational world, they would all be thrown out. But we're not living in a rational world. We're living in Vermont, which may be the most irrational corner of an irrational country. I mean, when I say irrational, what I mean, we're living in a place in a time right now when a lot of people are worried about climate change. I could do a little global warming today myself. But people are worried about climate change and wondering what's causing climate change today. And some people say, you know, we think that it might have something to do with cyclical fluctuations in this 4.5 billion-year-old, 27 million degree, 870,000 mile diameter hydrogen-helium fusion reactor at the center of the solar system. And people on the other side say, no, it's cow farts. And the cow fart people are the ones who are getting the attention. They're the ones who people believe. I mean, it's hard to understand that this sort of thing goes on. I mean, if you question the cow fart theory, then somebody's going to come up and get in your face. And this somebody who was probably born in a human body, but they actually identify as a cat. And they just put a bill into the legislature that would require a litter box to be present in all public restrooms in the state. And this is who's saying that you were a science denier. But they'll get up in your face. They'll put their finger right up under your nose, and if you question the cow fart theory, they're going to start saying, don't you know that 97% of the scientists in this world believe that it's humans and cows farting that is what's causing global warming? 97% of the scientists, how do you contradict them? That's not a scientific argument. It's consensus, which has nothing to do with science. But I'll tell you this, you know that 97% number is completely bogus? 100% bogus? This is how you can tell, because it never changes. It has been 97% for like 20 or 30 years. If this were a real statistic, it would fluctuate. It would go up. It would go down from year to year. One year you have a really good year when, let's say, thousands of people lose their homes due to hurricanes. Maybe it goes up to 99%. You have a bad year when, say, Michael Mann's hockey stick theory gets thrown out of court as a hoax. And maybe it goes down to 93%. But it stays at 97% all the time. It's like the 4 out of 5 dentists who recommend Trident gum for their patients who chew gum. It's not a real thing. It's a marketing scam. It's a marketing line. But they use it very well, and things like that, little tools like that, to make everybody believe that a majority of people think the way they do, when that is simply not the case. And I'll give you another example. At Castleton polling in the last election, they did a poll, and they asked people what the most important issue is facing the state of Vermont as we go into the election season. And they said, the top thing was like the economy and healthcare and what you would expect it to be. Way down at the bottom, at like 6%, was energy and climate, and energy and environment. 6%. And the way that question was framed, you could have people who think that they're actually crazy for chasing Vermont Yankee out of the state and making our electrical costs go up. So this is a very small number of people. But that very small number of people are very loud. It's just not that many people care about those issues, and it gets them frustrated. And, sometimes I can understand why you get frustrated about that, things like that. Which gets me to this next point, which is about the climate strike. John mentioned it when he was giving his talk. This next Friday is the climate strike and week of action, the 20th to the 27th. And basically, what they're calling on people to do is skip work, walk out of your office, sit in the middle of the street, block traffic, block people's access to business, and generally disrupt normal citizens being able to go about their daily lives. And here's what really upsets me about this climate strike. Well, we've got some information over there. John's holding up the flyer, and if you're interested in learning more about what's going on in climate, come over to our table here. But here's what really gets me about this climate strike, is they expect the shock troops of the climate strike to be school kids, our public school kids. Now, you think about this for a second. They're basically having public schools on the public tax dollars not teach kids algebra, not teach kids science, not teach kids how to read and write, but sending them out of the classroom. Get out of here. go out into the street and disrupt people's lives for a climate agenda that is being really pushed by people like Bill McKibben and VPIRG. These are lobbyists with an agenda. VPIRG folks, their board members will profit from the taxpayers if this climate strike is successful. These kids are being used for political purposes. They are being indoctrinated by the public schools. This is the end of the abdication of an educational mission, and they are starting to indoctrinate children. And think about this for a second. We, the taxpayers, pay as much as $22,000 by some estimates per student in our public school system. We pay some of the highest property taxes in the nation to educate these kids. And they are then turning around and sending them out in the streets to play in traffic on our dime. And not to mention, when they are in the classroom, they're being taught by their teachers to, hey, go home and take away your parents' guns. They're a bunch of racists. All these horrible things about us, and we're paying for this. I mean, folks, there is some serious insult and injury wrapped up in this equation. And it's crazy that we should be funding it. So you know what the answer to this, of course, is school choice. That is one of the most important things that we can push for in Vermont today, is school choice. Because imagine if you would, if we had school choice for every kid in the state. Imagine the conversation at the breakfast table one morning. Mom says, so Junior, what are you going to learn in school today? He says, nothing. They're telling us to go out and play in the street for climate change, and we're going to sit there, we're going to hold our breath in the middle of the intersection until they double your gasoline bill and your home heating fuel bill with a carbon tax. And Mom's going to say, well, you're right about one thing. We'll be walking out of that school. You will not be going back either. That's the kind of change that we need. That's the kind of policy that we have in the state of Vermont. So yes, I do believe that there should be a conservative resurgence in Vermont. They're giving us plenty of ammunition. We have so many opportunities that we can take advantage of, but we have to do the work. And there is hope. There is hope. Are you guys all aware of what's been going on in Franklin County over the past few cycles? No? Well, last election cycle, when Republicans lost those 12 legislative seats, Franklin County Republicans actually picked up a seat. They picked up a seat in Franklin County. And
Two seats, actually. James Durbar.
yeah, but that was a hold. One of them was a hold. It was a net gain of one seat in Franklin County. But they're doing a lot of work. What they did, and how did they do it? And that's sort of the big question. How did they do it in Franklin County? They've been, and it used to be, not very long ago, that the numbers were reversed. They now in Franklin County have 10 out of 13 legislative seats. They have both Senate seats and 8 of the 11 House seats in Franklin County. It used to be, just 10 years ago, the opposite. The Democrats had both the Senate seats, and they had 8 of the 11 House seats, but they turn around. But what's the secret? And I hear this from folks who do know about what's going on. What are they doing in Franklin County? What's their secret? And this is what gets me a little bit frustrated sometimes with the folks on our side, because you know what you see in somebody's eyes. I'll give you an example. When you know somebody who's not in very good shape, maybe they're a little overweight, you haven't seen them in a while, then you come back and you see them again, and they're trimmed down. I mean, they're looking ripped. And you say, what's your secret? And you really hope in your heart that what they tell you is, about a month ago, I discovered the jelly donut diet. And once I started eating jelly donuts for 3 meals a day, the pounds just started wasting away. But they never tell you that. What it really is, the story is more like something like, well, I gave up smoking, I gave up drinking, I started cutting out the fats and the carbs, and I run every morning, I go to the gym every evening. And Oh, okay. You know, walking away from them and the bastard doesn't want to tell me what his secret is. Okay. But no, that's sort of what's been going on in Franklin County. It's you know, we're not looking for help from the state party. We're not looking for help from anybody else. We're going to do this by ourselves. First thing that they did was they recruited candidates for every single legislative seat in the district. That was step one. Every seat in the district. The second thing that they did was, once those candidates were established, they worked together as a team. And it was all the House members were working together, they were meeting every week, they were coordinating with the Senate candidate, and they were working with Don Turner and Phil Scott at the state level. So it was a coordinated campaign on all three levels. They went out, they raised about $50,000 to support their campaigns, using direct mail, phone banking, all the stuff that you need for a strong get out the vote turnout on election day. And they use data collection. I mean, they're on a Nation Builder account, and they are, and Voter Vault, and they are monitoring what the voters are doing. They're really targeting who they're going after to try and get out to the polls. And this is the most important part that I really want to get across to everybody is they are having so much fun. They are having so much fun doing this. And they're young. You look at the new people coming in from the Franklin County delegation, Casey Tu, Felicia Leffler, James Gregoire, Senator Corey Parent. These guys are all in their 30s. Gregoire might be 42 or something like that. But they're all in their 20s or their 30s. And they're having a blast. And they're winning. And you can do it too. We all can do it too. As John Farr said, this is where it starts. This is the seed. We've got to go out and we've got to do the work because there are no jelly donut diets when it comes to politics, particularly when you're a conservative in a place like Vermont. Thank you very much. That's what I got to say to you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Well, I don't see any. Oh, Zach.
First of all, I want to say thank you for speaking some truth about split warming, referencing our sun and the solar system. Do you have any ideas or strategies and methods to use to convince the college professors who are educating the future of those scientists that are, God-given nuclear reactor might be worth looking into, studying more intensely versus the so-called greenhouse effects and things like that. Just in a larger perspective.
The only thing I can say is keep questioning them with facts. Bringing things to their attention. Like, hey, there's people who are looking at solar cycles and sunspots tend to have a better track record of predicting weather patterns and all these other computer models that don't work going forward and they can't be replicated going backwards. There's plenty of ammunition out there. All right. I don't see our hands up. We're over here at the Ethan Allen booth. We've got tons of literature for you to take home with you. Obviously, you see a lot here. I'd love to see everybody leave with a sticker from the Ethan Allen Institute that says the opposite of politically correct is actually correct.
Thank you, Lawbreaker. I've got a few minutes here to kill. I have something special I'd like to make an announcement.
Thank you for the opportunity to share. My name is Erica Reddick. I live in Burlington, Vermont.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. How many people here heard about our city councilor who proposed disarming Burlington police? Can I get a round of applause for everyone who thinks that's silly? And I'm using a nice word in case anybody sees this later. So in response, my ward for City Councilor Kurt Wright at the September 23rd City Council meeting is proposing essentially a counter resolution which says that Burlington police can be armed at all times, can defend themselves at all times, and can defend Burlington at all times. And so what I'm doing is organizing a public assembly. We have a Facebook event. It happens to correspond with Thank a Police Officer Day. So we're asking people, it doesn't matter if you live in Burlington, if you live in the surrounding areas, it doesn't matter if you support police, doing what police are supposed to do, which is protect the community, we would love to see you. September 23rd at 7 p.m. at City Hall in Burlington, gathering in the Contois Auditorium out onto the street. We're working with a DJ. I think we're actually might even get to open Red Square and make it like a whole big thing. That they don't know that yet,
What they don't know won't hurt them.
we're working on it. But anyway, the more people, the better to let our police and first responders know that we support them, that we thank them, that we're grateful for them, rather than saying that they're all racist and believing false research that says they're all implicitly biased and they hate everybody. Who thinks that's just such a bunch of... Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So anyway, I didn't plan this, so I wish I had some rousing way to finish, but come! September 23rd, 7 p.m. at City Hall in Burlington.
Has anyone asked that Burlington City Councilor how she plans to collect all of the AR-15s when the police are disarmed?
That probably will be brought up.
Yeah, I'm not certain about that. You know, under their breath, some of the other city councilors are saying, oh yeah, no, we don't support that, that's silly, But nobody's really coming out and condemning it and making a statement against how ridiculous that is. Unfortunately, we live in a world where there are bad people who do bad things. And the idea that everybody just needs a puppy and to pet and some therapy to talk about their daddy issues and we'll all be better, is so misguided that I can't stand it. People earn their dignity back when they take responsibility for the things that they've done. And so all of these, and people don't realize this, I don't think. Burlington is very unique in that the mayor can appoint its police chief. So it is very unusual for a city to allow the police department to be politicized like Burlington has been. And so, does everybody else know this? Sworn peace officers are not allowed to stand up for themselves. They are not allowed to speak out. They are not allowed to talk about how they're being treated. They're not allowed to talk about the fact that they keep re-arresting the same people over and over and over again. They're not allowed to talk about these people are mentally ill, and because of the laws in our state, we are not allowed to medicate them and get them help. We believe that mercy is putting them back out onto the street to live in their own insanity and to hurt themselves and to hurt others. And that is ridiculous. And no police officer is allowed to say that. And if there aren't sane people going, hello, this is stupid, you guys, we're setting up a scenario, I just moved home from Los Angeles, y'all. Burlington is well on its way to being like Hollywood, and it is terrifying to me. Having to walk over human beings who are mentally ill and saying that leaving them there on the street is mercy, they should be ashamed of themselves. Absolutely ashamed of themselves. And then, on the other hand, to say, now BPD, you go out and you deal with it. We're not going to give you the power to deal with it. We're not going to give you the ability to deal with it. In fact, we're going to set up all of our laws and policies to screw you over, and then we're going to tell you that it's your fault. How many times have we heard that today? The buck being passed to the people less able to bear the burden.
That's becoming the norm in Vermont now.
I think it is. I think it's a personal responsibility. We hate that here in Vermont, don't we? We hate it here. We don't want personal responsibility. Anyway, now I'm digressing. I'm just going to stop talking.
Run for office!
7 p.m., City Hall, Burlington. Yes, it's a pain in the ass. Yes, there's no parking. Yes, there is a parking garage up the street. Yes, it sucks. And it sucks, and there are people in Burlington like me who are tired of being tyrannized by our city council and by the mayor. And oh, I'm gonna start going off again. I'm just gonna hand the microphone. Thank you for listening.
Burlington, there's one way to solve this problem real fast, is to get him out of office and start changing that whole city council back to a normal Vermont-based conservative platform. Voting's the only way to get rid of people like that. Dennis, you are on, sir. I'll just have a couple of musical interludes here before our last speaker, so enjoy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our final speaker of the evening is a doctor. She is the director of the Vermont Right to Life Committee, a number 4 and past Republican House candidate from Fairfax. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Mary Bearworth.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be brief because it's the end of the day. So thank you, but my name is Mary Hahn Bearworth, and I am from Fairfax. I'm not the Mary Bearworth in town that's at the hospital. A little closer. Well, thank you very much. I am the executive director and lobbyist for Vermont Right to Life, and last year was from straight out of hell. And I want to tell you a little bit about that, but first I want to be sure you understand that you don't have to be pro-life in order to be outraged by what went on.
That's right.
I think there's a place for everybody at this table. So, very briefly, Vermont Right to Life's mission is to uphold the sanctity of human life. From the moment of conception, we're particularly sensitive to newborn babies at risk of infanticide simply because they have disabilities, and extremely sensitive to our elderly and terminally ill at danger of euthanasia. So, but this year, December, House and Senate leadership decided to make unlimited, unregulated abortion the centerpiece of their legislative agenda. In fact, they did that and went even further. They did nothing else but abortion in this last session. So here's how they kicked it off. They came to Room 11, they showed the movie Reversing Roe. Planned Parenthood's lobbyists came in and said, "Who loves abortion?" And the whole crowd yelled, "We do!" And that's how far over the top these people are. For the next 4 months, it was high-fiving and congratulatory and dancing like cheerleaders at a football game. There's something completely off there. Planned Parenthood has an undue influence over our legislature at this point. They came in proud that they do 90% of the abortions in the state of Vermont. Up to 19 weeks they'll go, and that is about 2 weeks shy of viability. These are the things they're proud of. That's 1,100 abortions a year in the state of Vermont. Now that's a drop from a high of 3,500 in the 80s, so good for all that. It was in some ways there was great things that happened in the State House. And thank you, Terry Burke, thank you, John DeBrun, and thank you, Rutland County, because the majority of your legislators stood firm. And they weren't necessarily pro-life, but they were human enough to be sickened by what happened. So not only did they spend the session legalizing abortion throughout all 9 months of pregnancy, ensconcing it into our statutes, they protected the abortion business with more protection than you have for your religious liberty or for your guns.
That's right.
Nobody can interfere in any way with the business of abortion. Public entities cannot even speak. Your schools, your libraries. We'll be looking for lawsuits, so keep us in mind if you see something egregious out there. conscience protections are under attack. You've all heard about the UVM Medical Center and what's going on there. There's some outrageous stories coming out of that. The chair of the Board of Trustees is the former CEO of Planned Parenthood of Northern New England. And it's all, they're way ahead of us. They're way ahead of us. They're taking over every state agency. You need to know that T.J. Donovan, okay, so there's H57, but then they had to go even further and propose a constitutional amendment to inscribe in granite and in our founding document this unlimited, unregulated right to personal reproductive autonomy, whatever that means. And they really don't care what it means because they know they own the courts as well. So, the Senate Pro Tem, now at that same rally, Who Loves Abortion, he said, Planned Parenthood is going to be so grateful to us for this. And they intend to take this on the road. So, in 2022, this constitutional amendment will be on your ballot. Let's stuff it right back down their throats. I think we can do this. So I'll go anywhere. I've been to Derby Line, Colchester, just came from Arlington. There's some big energy. There's an affront. And we're going to tap into that energy, but we're also going to be working with multitudes of groups. There's going to be groups that are just opposed to amending our Constitution. Leave our founding documents alone. That's history. And there's going to be some messaging, it just goes too far. Okay, there's a lot of people who call themselves pro-choice, but this goes too far. Vermont, Right to Life, is going to be promoting a campaign, Bring Vermont Back to Life. And that resonates in so many ways with the aging population. Abortion has cost us 100,000 unborn lives since it was legalized here in 1972. So you'll find a petition back at our friends over there at First Step Pregnancy Center. God bless the pregnancy centers. They offer an alternative to our kids. So let's get connected up. Again, you don't have to be pro-life, but if you're against this idea of amending our Constitution, let's get you all in a group here and let's set this state on fire. Planned Parenthood also announced after they had their in-the-bag victory, these people were intoxicated with a hatred for Donald Trump and the fact that he successfully got Brett Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. I don't know how they're going to get madder when he wins again. I did want to show you the arrogance of this organization. Did you hear that they turned down the federal money, $800,000 in federal money? Did you also know that about 2 weeks before that, they moved $1 million into their political action fund? This is a wealthy organization, and they terrified our legislators at election time. But didn't stop the Rutland folks. Well, I have a picture here that Planned Parenthood is using this picture on their Facebook. It's our Capitol with pink hats out on the lawn and a branding of Planned Parenthood because they think they own that place. I know, it's arrogance times anything I've ever seen. So I don't want to stay on it for too long. I'm happy to be here. I also have the sign-up sheet to get State House Headliners by Guy Page. Great source of news. He's a good friend of ours. That's back at the Republican table. And again, against the constitutional amendment at First Step. Oh, and the bumper stickers are totally available. They have the film ones or the regular bumper stickers. Shane?
Mary, so recently the Trump administration changed the rules of Title 10 to make it so that Planned Parenthood does not qualify anymore.
And
they could qualify, they won't.
They don't, and they're probably not going to change. We all did. Anyway. Because of that, now Vermont doesn't have any women's health care centers that qualify for federal funding, and there's going to be a battle next year over whether we, the state of Vermont, should fund Planned Parenthood with our state tax dollars.
Oh, no, that ship is sailed.
Well, so it's sailed for this year, but it's going to be an ongoing budget battle in the future. Are you guys prepared for that? And what can we do to help you get prepared for that?
Yeah, I mean, people have to know. First of all, Planned Parenthood has always gotten state dollars out of, since Howard Dean, he granted them money that they never lost. But just in case they lost, they started getting $300,000 every single year to do whatever they want with. Then they got a raise a few years ago, so that total is now $600,000. By the way, we have more Planned Parenthood clinics per capita than any state in the United States. So there are 12 here in Vermont, that there are 5 in New Hampshire with twice the population, and there are 4 in Maine with twice the population. And they're in our schools, and they're indoctrinating our kids. And not my subject, but they're the leadership on the whole trans care movement. That is their new access to teens, is to help your kids explore their gender identity. Even though they say that gender identity can start when you're unborn. Isn't that interesting? So happy to take your questions. I can talk nonstop, but you guys are probably...
Not per se a question, just a clarification. We don't have to let it go to 2022 and get on the ballot for the voters. Because if 16 senators quash it in the Senate,
yes,
the rest doesn't even matter.
You're right. You're right. And a big target ought to be Senator Cheryl Hooker. How these people keep coming back. But I want you to know we consider this an opportunity. It'll be a big task to turn the House and Senate around in just 2 years. But we see this as an opportunity to educate Vermonters and win the hearts and minds over. This is a big overreach. There's no other state in the country that tried for a constitutional amendment. So let's see if they've walked into a big puddle and we can make them sink in it. All right. I'm here. If there's any, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in case anybody's got the munchies, over there at the John Birch Society table, there's apples and pears available. Anybody wants them? And peaches, go grab them. This event is about to wrap up. I want to thank all the volunteers who helped to pull this event together over the past several months. We worked long and hard, met weekly, got all our T's crossed and our I's dotted. Without the team effort, it could not have happened. And a special thank you to Otter Creek Fun Center for hosting our first ever. And a super special thanks to our speakers, as well as the groups who were here today. I think it was a successful send-off. And we'll do it again next year, I promise.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.